Okay, so welcome back to part 2, and we're going to go more deeply into the experiences of people here at Disclosure Network in New York. So we weren't able to finish up with yours.
Okay, what I was talking about was why I feel the aliens partake in getting to know what's going on with human beings, and part of the reason I believe is not just physical, but they don't understand human emotion and how we deal with things and why we do certain things, even on just a daily basis. Because one of my experiences when I was about 10, I remember being asked by them to describe why we do certain daily activities. I don't remember anything in particular at the moment, but I remember thinking as a 10-year-old child, why are they asking me such a stupid question? Like, I don't get it. But it's because maybe they don't get us. So they, as an innocent child, they'll give an honest answer. I'm a very honest person anyway, but maybe they saw that I was taken before at that time, so they must know me somehow. So I think that's one of the reasons. They just don't understand why human beings do certain things. They don't understand human relationships, emotions. So.
Do you feel you were able to help them understand you?
I don't know. I think because I was taken again after that, so I guess I'm some help to them.
Were you frightened at the time?
I have all mixed emotions as far as my experiences go. Sometimes I'm elated. Sometimes I was scared and crying. Other times I was like, oh, not this again. Being woken up in the middle of the night to go outside and do whatever I was going to do, which I already knew. So I have all mixed emotions.
Your friend over there is nodding. That seems like your case too?
That's true. Sometimes you're not afraid. Sometimes it scares the hell out of you. And the other time it's...
Oh, hang on. Let's get you that. Okay.
Okay.
He said sometimes it scares you and sometimes it elates you. Do you look forward to...
I don't know if anything's been going on in my adult years. I know up to young adult. I do have 3 children. They're all older, like teenagers. My oldest is almost 20. But I don't know like what's been going on since then. I do have dreams, especially lately, of things, but I don't know if it's just I'm thinking about things or it's just things come up from the subconscious after many years. So I don't know if things are still going on or not, but I feel very strongly that it's never going to completely, like there's a connection, there's a reason why I've had my experiences, and the reason hasn't come yet.
Do you sleep well at night?
Very well.
Do you sleep well at night?
No.
You don't?
No.
Do you take medication?
No, I won't take medication.
You won't take medication?
In case I have to get up and run.
He said in case he has to get up and run. If that didn't get on the mic, okay. But I sense you're very at peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
About understanding emotions. From what I read, some of the aliens have lost their emotions and have become completely objective according to the tasks that they are assigned en masse or as a group network. And so in a case that I read about,
but Betty,
a mother was holding an Earth Mother. Yes.
Betty, at this point, I don't want to talk about what we read about. I more want to use this as our feelings. Now, maybe
I want to explain something.
Talk about your feelings about it. Your personal experience.
Yes, I have many feelings about many things, but I want to say that they study us because they want to know something about human emotion, and that they studied a woman, an Earth woman, holding a baby, cuddling it, holding it close to the heart, kissing it, and fondling it. And they studied this very closely because this is something that they may not do with the children.
Do you want to be abducted?
Do I want to be abducted? No, but if I'm invited by entities that I think are friendly, I think it would be interesting to go off in a spaceship for a while and see what I can see.
Okay.
I would be
Sean,
open to it.
Sean, what I was getting at here is there's so much information and misinformation and disinformation, like what Betty was saying, the cuddling thing, that seems like a nice experience to have. But I think if we're really honest with ourselves, we want to do our research in such a way where we're not just entertaining ourselves.
Not what?
We don't want it to just be entertainment, but to say, this is very real, and I too want to participate, or I don't want to participate, but at least we're very active in realizing what we want to accomplish in our life. Otherwise, I think what I'm trying to kind of attack at is to let go of the shame that we're involved with UFO culture. And I think we have to be brutally honest with ourselves. How much are we bringing to the table when we pursue this? So that if we feel in ourselves that this is a very, noble research that takes assiduous study and discipline, then no matter what people are saying to us, we'll say, because not just because we read a book, but that, well, I heard that there are alien children, and I heard, even if it's not your experience, that there's something inside you that really wants to know.
Yeah, really.
And then and then when you really want to know, you call forth the right stuff, and the wrong stuff falls away.
I think that what you say about trying to understand the aliens, we've come so far now. We're into the 21st century, and since Roswell, it's much after 50 years, much after a half a century. We have to tackle something of our American government to be much more clear to the American people about the reality of UFOs and alien civilizations.
Okay, Sean, what about Roswell? Some people don't even believe it's so, and she's saying we have to demand more from our government. You were talking about empathizing with people in the media, that maybe if they're corporate media, they can't say so much. How would you? So that we can all be experiencers of greater intelligence in ourselves and attract to us people who will find us more fun to connect with.
What I want to respond to, you say American government. This is a global phenomenon.
Yeah, it should be global.
When our guy was attached to the UN at one point, his job was to reach out to mid-level bureaucrats that got things done. Now he went to Spain, he went to England, he went to Germany, he went to France, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and maybe Belgium, and he had to talk to people. He got different responses, but the fact that he was tasked to go all over the world dealing with the UN initiative of in-briefing and then moving towards disclosure tells you it's a global phenomenon. So now it's even more complicated. Some countries were very open, some countries are not so. Some countries are actually hostile. He had to get out of some countries very quickly. So these meetings took place they're continually taking place too, and my understanding is the meetings are now being held over in Europe, but the meetings he attended to happened in the United States, and then he was reassigned and he moved into a different area. But some of these meetings were very volatile. Representatives from certain countries wanted compensation for the 60 years of denial. They wanted a surety that there would be technological transfers. They wanted. They didn't like the finger pointing in terms of population issues. It became very, very volatile. In fact, there was an instance where our guy interfaced with another nation state, and it got very volatile. And whereby his superior to his right said, calm down. And then there was an exchange. I won't tell the countries because I don't know if I have that liberty, but it's a very volatile issue. And you get into nonviolent communication, it becomes pretty hairy at the UN. But my understanding is that as they moved over to Europe, a different person was put in his place. I guess they moved past some of the issues, but there was more listening happening. It got better.
But Sean, I'm kind of confused. You say some countries want recompense for 60 years
of they want us to compensate them for the idea that we've done certain things to protect, to prevent disclosure from happening.
Oh, they're claiming the U.S. government. They want recompense from the U.S. government.
That's my understanding.
Because
I only had one or two conversations on this issue with them, but it became very volatile. And our guy flatly got very angry. Said, no way. And basically,
no way.
No way. I mean, he wasn't. A, he didn't have the authority to answer a question like that, and B, the exchange was so heated that he was put on the defensive.
Why were they? But who does he represent?
He represents an element of the military.
Of whose military?
Our military.
When
An
you
element.
say
An element. He represents an inter-services working group that unofficially is involved in this initiative to bring about disclosure before contact happens. But it's not sanctioned by the constitutional government because it's not recognized by the constitutional government. So he's not a representative of the United States of America as such. Mm-hmm. What it is it's to create these are meetings to facilitate controlled leaks, to bring about a point of critical mass where consciousness and effort and revelation start stepping forward, where you can create the environment for disclosure to happen. That's why we're so far away from disclosure that we're not even, there's the environment of a disclosure to happen is not even in place yet.
When you look around at this room, would you say these are all Americans that these other countries want recompense from their government?
No, I think that other nation states look at the United States in two ways. They look at the American people, and then they look at the intelligence service and the bureaucratic end of the government that represents another entity. They don't, the Russians and the Chinese, they don't lump the American people in with the American government or the American services or the American intelligence services. They're two different entities.
I think in
so they will look at, just like the American people, there are many Chinese citizens that want disclosure to happen. Many Japanese citizens want disclosure to happen. In fact, the Japanese government is very favorable about disclosure. So it's a very complicated issue, but contact will happen. That's a done deal.
But it's already happened. We've had two people.
I'm talking about unambiguous contact where the entire planet understands it's no longer alone. It's unambiguous. That's the key word.
How many people in the room have had personal experiences like the two we've just heard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would be curious to hear from the people who we haven't, what they think about what Sean just said.
Would you accept a dream experience?
Well, Sean seems to be saying that there is going to be contact that everybody in the room is going to acknowledge. So what I want to know from those who have already had contact, regardless of the military, regardless of who runs our government or whether it's global or the U.S., that should give the recompense to those who feel that they have been blocked. Okay.
Well, as you know, and as most people in this room know, I've had contact with a woman from the planet Venus. Now, whether you believe that or not is up to you. But I'm the one who's had these experiences, and I can tell you that her message is more important than where she came from. And that message is, there's only one mind, and we're all a part of that one mind. And to be a successful human being, you have to be in touch with that overall one mind.
So, based on your experience of this woman from Venus, how do you feel about disclosure and contact for everyone? Do you feel frustrated that other people haven't had this, or do you feel patient that the planet's not ready yet, or
I think that the planet is ready, but I don't think it's all inclusive. I mean, everybody, I don't think everybody is going to be a part of whatever transformation that's taking place.
Okay, so by the time we have our next meeting, because I want to come next month, whoever the speaker is, how many people want to be in the category of these 5 people and have experiences? If you haven't had,
your question, please.
How many people want to have the experiences by next month that these people have had?
Be careful what you answer.
Okay, I realize that, but I'm telling you, I was in a position once. I got a pyramid from Fred Bell, and I felt it was just that close. And I asked for it not to happen because I wanted financial security. But I'm feeling now, having been through so much, that here's a group in New York where we can physically meet and share and talk openly to each other, that maybe what wasn't appropriate then, I want to throw my hat in on that one. And I want to raise my hand to say, I want to be talking about these experiences first. So, anybody else want to join me, or despite the disclosure?
Paula, for the sake of, I just want to clarify something. It's not just reimbursing or recompense, it's paying for it. There's going to be a great cost to disclosure. It's going to be costly. You know, entire financial markets will even become more consolidated, because what if the wealthy elite start pulling their money out of the financial services because they freak out? What if they believe that disclosure will lead to a greater distribution of wealth, and in order for them to protect their wealth, they pull it out of the system? These are very real problems. And so when the interaction happened, you said, you pay for it, or you pay for the consequences of it. You're asking a particular entity, our source representing this particular entity, you said, what are you talking about? The variables are too far reaching.
Okay, you've elaborated the warning that he gave me.
Well, that's all. I just want to make that clear.
No, that is that knowledge has responsibility.
That's right.
Do you accept that? And can I hear from more of the other experiencers how they're responding to this based on their experience? Who else raised their hand?
Would you accept a dream experience?
No, not yet. First, because Sean was saying that people are saying this is the imagination or disinformation, and Sean seems to be pushing that this is not just interdimensional, it's also actually physical. Just like you said, you woke up, your mother told you it was a dream just because she had to comfort you. But now can we have a maturity? How are you responding based on your experiences?
Well, I think it's a foregone conclusion that contact has already taken place. With the preponderance of experiencers and just the physical evidence that's culminated over the years, I believe perspective has a lot to do with the equation, and I think that social engineering is also part of that equation. I believe that there is a predatory group within the human race itself, and they dictate policy on this earth. I think.
Now, excuse me. This predatory group.
Mm-hmm.
Did they contact you? Did they prey upon you personally?
Let me clarify it. I'm talking about humans.
I'm talking about experiences. I'm at this point in the discussion.
Right.
What was your experience?
Okay. Do you want me to answer the question you asked initially? I
need
to clarify it.
The question I'm asked initially was based on your experience.
No problem. What piqued my interest was experiences I couldn't understand at a relatively early age, probably beginning about 5 and onward, where I couldn't make any sense of it, obviously because of my age, but I guess we're all forced to understand at an accelerated rate, whether we like it or not. I believe that those experiences culminated over the years, and I've reached a point that the more I know, the less I know. It's like a moving target.
Just a second, slow down. I really want to stay connected with you, because my experiences are repressed. My experiences are repressed. They were sexual experiences.
Mm-hmm.
In a moment of an acupuncture session, it came out. Now, you're saying you couldn't understand because you were young.
Right.
Your experiences, how old were you?
I started around 5.
At about 5 years old? Did you feel... Did you feel you could and it's okay. No, because I don't want to lose you either, okay? Just a quick thing. Did you feel because of your young age you couldn't understand?
I was also searching through my childhood from memories, same as he said, memories I had that I couldn't pinpoint where they came from, but I knew they were real and not dreams, and it really boggled my mind for years. I would be like looking and searching, and like, where was I when I went through this and this and this? And I couldn't figure it out as a child, so that was very frustrating. And it wasn't until I was about 17, 18, 19, things started really coming out, and then it was kind of coming together what these memories were, and then it all.
Well, just hearing this discussion makes things happen for me, so continue. I just wanted to elaborate on the you couldn't understand at 5.
Right. I guess cumulatively, as I got older, I put it together. I put something together that something was interfacing at some stage of my life, and it seems as though it got more and more sophisticated as I got older. I was allowed, quote unquote, to see more and more, and thus understand more. Understanding took place on a different level. It took place where I would see something, and when I tried to find closure, if you will, it responded to my thought, and it made the change, for example, and then I saw it and I learned that way. I didn't learn just as if you go in a classroom. It was taught to me in a way on a different level as the way I
Were you afraid?
No, I wasn't afraid at all.
You weren't afraid at all?
I was too stupid.
You weren't afraid.
No,
but you were afraid.
I'm saying that is the way they teach you. It's not like they sit you down and there's a professor with a ruler standing in front and saying this. You learn from putting it together yourself. They show you things, but you've got to put it together. They don't tell you. You've got to learn from the inside out, not from the outside in.
Okay. So based on what you put together later, what Sean was saying about recompense, maybe you and Sean can... You get what I'm trying to get at?
I completely agree with you. Contact has already happened. Absolutely. The way the structure is set up is the Air Force handles technology and initial contact. Then it's passed on to the Navy and State Department to handle policy. Okay. Now this is where it's at. This is why our guy is an envoy. You know. They're getting into the policy aspect of disclosure, and soon we move into what is unambiguous, universal, ships over cities contact. Okay, but you're absolutely correct that initial contact has to happen at a certain level, and it first happens with the Air Force. They handle initial contact, and then they hand off to different services. I just want to make that clear.
I'd like to comment on that. I don't need anyone to certify anything. I don't need the Air Force, Navy, or anyone else. I believe that when you abide by those rules, you're restricted. I'm an artist. I can't be restricted to anything. Otherwise, it stymies my artistic talent, or whatever you want to call it, license. I believe that what I spoke about earlier about social engineering has a lot to do with it. I don't need for them to okay it. If something is in front of me and they say to me, well, you don't really see it because I didn't officially say it's there, that doesn't bode well with me at all. I know that, and it's not because I'm saying it, it's all you have to do is look at the preponderance of evidence. Look at what happened in, was it that ship was in Arizona when it took place? And I mean, I mean, if you own both sides of the equation, that is to say controlled media, then they could say when it's official or not. So I don't really understand what you're saying.
No. I'm not. My comment is not connected to the individual. I'm simply talking about when you get into the bureaucratic level of government dealing with the UFO issue. This is the structure. You personally, I mean, it's your experience is what it is, and
but it has no concept.
Absolutely not with you. I mean, these things could hover over cities, and you say, okay, yeah, a big deal. But there's a significant portion of the world that would say, oh my God, because they A, haven't experienced it, or B, they've experienced and denied it, or C, They don't know what they're looking at. They're ignorant completely on the issue. There's no connection to it whatsoever. But no, don't get me wrong. I'm not dealing at all with individual experiences. I'm just outlining the structure in terms of the bureaucratic, military, governmental end of it. That's it.
Ships over the cities. Did you see spaceships?
If I did, I don't really remember.
Yeah, I didn't.
I remember being on them. I remember the aliens, but not really the ships themselves. But definitely the interaction, the telepathic communication, and all that.
The telepathic communication. That's what Pamela was talking about with sex with aliens, the telepathy.
Point about that. See, earlier you were saying that they're trying to understand emotion. These things have emotion, but you got to understand they're telepathic. So if you're telepathic, you don't have to smile to say I feel good. You don't have to frown to say I feel bad. They know. So they don't have those expressions. We look at them, we see the face of a cockroach. You know, by that saying, it doesn't show any expression. But they have their senses of humor, but you've got to look at their sense of humor a different way. But you've got to, it's like I say, it's always that you've got to get the joke. They're not going to tell you the punchline because it's not funny. Until you get it, then you say, oh, wow, that is very funny. You know, that's the way they work.
That's
and
interesting.
That's our problem with understanding them, is because they are coming from what I call a quantumantic thought, where they speak to everything. When you're dealing with them, here's why we think it's a dream. Example, my last physical abduction went under left evidence. Not only did I see them come into the room and pick me up, I was laying there being picked up. I was standing outside the room watching them take me outside the room. Now how the hell can I be both in their arms and outside watching them take me? Well, the only way we see this naturally is in a dream. So we assume it's got to be a dream because I can't be in two places at once. But if you're telepathic, it doesn't have to be a dream. You see what I'm saying? When you're dealing with them and they're in contact with you, not only are they filling your mind, but you're also absorbing some of them into you. So you see yourself as if you're over there, but yet you're over here. How the hell can I be here, but I'm over there looking at me sitting here? And that's the problem with trying to understand. That's why it takes you so long sometimes to get your understanding of what happened to you. Why you keep saying it had to be a dream. It had to be a dream. I can't fly. It had to be a dream. I can't walk through a wall. It had to be a dream. But yet it keeps coming back to you. No, you really did. No, you really did.
So you're saying you were taken up to that higher level than what most society says is possible.
That's not taken up. It's not up or down.
Well, I don't know.
We were once able to do this.
But
we've been messed with. So we're no longer, that other 90%, that's been turned off. We can't connect to that. Those of us that have had these experiences, sometimes they come to you just because you naturally are open to that aspect, so they can talk to you.
So I'm suggesting by this discussion, nonviolent communication on planet and off, that turning on that 90% is turning on, for lack of a better word, empathy and love. That we control that.
A little bit, because a whole lot comes to that. An example, I can give you an example of a friend who was shown things. And he was so taken away with it because his understanding that he was being visited by God. But he was showing the universe. And he was so filled with love, he says, God, I'd like to help you in your work. I'd like to do like you do. And all of a sudden, he was shown all the terror that's going on in the world. He almost died. His wife came in and found him in a knot in the middle of the floor. Can your mind take that? Seeing all the horror, and get that, not just seeing it, feeling it. So not just seeing them stab this man, but feeling the knife go in. Not just seeing them butcher the cattle, but feeling yourself being cut off. You know, not just seeing them pull up a plant and eat it, but being chewed up as that plant. Are we ready for that? No. They can't give us that. No. They don't want us to have that. We're not ready for that yet.
But I think he had the experience. He called it forth.
He called it forth, but he wasn't ready. It almost
okay.
Literally, it almost
Yeah. No. I have heard that, not even with UFO culture, but when I was with the manifesting master in India, he made that same comment. He said, you can ask for knowledge, and knowledge can come, and it almost makes you crazy because Sri Sai Kaleshwar Swami in the south of India is who. Somebody asked who it was. But no, what I meant before was you said humor. To understand the sense of humor implies empathy. That's I would call an extraordinary level of empathy and connection.
They can understand. They know that. They know what humor is.
No, I know.
And they know what love
But
is.
in other words, you got the joke. That's what I'm trying to say. You got the joke.
I'm saying they know all of that, but we are used to seeing somebody look at you and you say, well, this is a nice person, or this is a cruel person. You look at them, you can't tell a damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, are they there to greet you or eat you? You don't know.
So
and that's the scary part.
So, Sean, can you respond to that? Because you talk about the United Nations and the responsibility of disclosure.
Respond specifically to what?
Of disclosure.
Well,
how can you induce such an
How can you what?
How can you have some institution have a meeting, whether they're arguing at the meeting or not, and just say, okay, now we're going to have disclosure? Because to me it seems like a very intimate, organic process of some seed people who, for whatever reasons, have maybe in a prior life you called upon that you would have the mother that you did to have these experiences, and then people like you and me, I don't have these kind of experiences. And you said before, maybe since we spoke last, that you haven't had these experiences.
No, I've never been, to my knowledge, I've never been abducted.
Have you seen a spaceship?
No.
And yet,
I've seen lights in the sky that performed weirdly, but but that's about it.
I haven't even seen.
No.
I haven't seen the lights in the sky either. So I'm saying it seems like we all have our roles.
I've had interdimensional experiences, but I don't know if they're UFOs. They scare the crap out of me, and I don't want to get near it.
And yet, you, Sean, were saying, people saying that it's disinformation, that it's only interdimensional. You seem to be really pushing.
No.
For ships over the.
I'm like Posey. It's the whole. It's 360. It's everything.
Right.
But I'm being accused of limiting to the 3D, and all I am is a stenographer connected to a guy, source that has had an experience with a particular ET race.
You have had an experience with a particular ET race?
I have a source interfaces with a particular ET race. They are three-dimensional. They're not interdimensional. They don't abduct.
Excuse me.
Okay? They're a silicone-based life form. And he's got to put his archaeology hat and try to infer relationships between ETs, tall whites, in this particular ET race. He's trying to figure out if is there a hierarchy. Does one defer to the other one? What his observation is that the reptilians that interfaced with this particular ET race and the tall whites that interface with this particular ET race defer to these people. Now, whether there's a hierarchy in place, who knows? It'd be like coming down 6 years ago and saying Kofi Annan is running the world. No, he was selected Secretary General of the UN. So, but someone from another planet may look at Kofi Annan and say, "Oh, he rules the world." No, he doesn't rule the world. He was chosen to be Secretary General of a particular organization that everyone seems to defer to him. It's that kind of thing. The particular ET race that our guys interferes with, they're very quote-unquote tight-lipped. They don't share much at all. So, he's got to put his thinking hat on when he interfaces with them to kind of figure out what's happening. But there's no guarantee that he got it right. So this is where it gets very, very complicated when you deal with other ET races that actually are invasive. The Greys are considered an invasive race. This particular ET race, the silicone-based life forms, do not agree with the invasiveness of the Greys. The silicone-based life forms believe in non-interference. Now this presents another argument. Is appearance, contact,
invasive?
Is that invasive? Is that interference?
Right.
There is a group of people out there in the UFO community that says that even if these guys just appear, they're interfering. I don't subscribe to that. I think appearance is different from interference. Interference is a willful manipulation of something. Yeah. If you just appear, there is a degree I would concede that would change something, but are they interfering? These are the arguments that are happening in the UFO community based on this information.
But see, when you say the UFO community, to me there's people who believe that this is possible, and there's people who've experienced and know that it's possible.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
That's why I'd like to see, that's why I'm always interested in hearing from the experiencers, because even my acupuncture session totally shifted me. It just totally put me into another place. And I would think that the appearance will shift things.
I'm most open to the UFO phenomenon from this angle. I believe the 3D so much is I do look at the interdimensional stuff as a reality too. My brother walked into the kids' room the other day, and the door was literally ripped off the hinges. He's walked out of the room and came in, and the couch has been turned around. Now, if this is happening, then the reality that we've been told about is very different than the reality that is.
Just a second, slow down. You're saying in your apartment here?
No, in my brother's house.
In your brother's house?
He has interdimensional activity all the time.
But it's not physical.
Yes, it manifests itself in a physical way. If you walk out of a room and the couch is a certain way, and then you walk back in the room and the couch is in a completely different configuration. And nobody's been in the room.
Does that happen to you, Posey?
That runs along with this. See, you saying that you were abducted, and I say you've had the experience. It doesn't run in families. They don't just touch one in a family and not touch everybody. So
I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I like a cat, you sense something, and I'm looking at my drapes, and my drapes were.
There you go.
And ever since that, I don't sleep with my light off. And I wake up 5 to 6 times a night, and I haven't had a decent night's sleep in 5 years. No, but it hit to the core of me because I knew it was real. I would wake up in the middle of the night, I don't know if anyone has this experience, of smelling a really pungent odor of coffee. And I know that there was nobody next to me because the apartment was vacant, and the person across the way was not around. And this has happened time and time again. So
that's interdimensional.
So if that can happen, surely the 3D can happen.
Right.
That's the way I look at it anyway. I may be wrong, but that's the way I look at it.
Any more experiencers want to comment on what Sean? Yeah. We'll get to you when we finish with them.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of sitting here trying to look at my experience and fit it into the conversation, in a sense. And I have two kinds of experiences. One under the influence of some very potent psychedelics, where it's my belief that when you ingest this kind of chemical, that it affects the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is the thing that shapes your experience by the chemicals it produces. So as you take, say, LSD or mushrooms or whatever your particular pleasure is, it drops down the barriers of your perception. So how you're normally programmed to see the world is no longer relevant, and you start seeing beyond that. So I've had experience that go into that area, and people that say I would normally think of as people, and it always seems that there were different influences impinging upon this. But in another reality, the non-drug induced reality, I have had a few times something like very weird happening. An entity came into my house and my animal started reacting. And this one time my animal started throwing herself up against a window. It was a cat, and she just started bashing herself up against a window, and it seemed to calm down, and then I ran after the cat, and I'm holding the cat, and then later on that evening, I went to sleep and I was awakened, and I couldn't move. I just couldn't move. And I was told that I wasn't going to be able to move.
Were you frightened?
It was even beyond that. There wasn't even it seemed like everything was paralyzed. My emotions, other than one, I was pissed.
Posey?
I was really, really, how dare you do this to me?
You had
the thing that I think that moved me beyond that was that extreme will, like an extreme FU. And I forced myself out of the bed, and I remember I had to climb on all of my hands and knees, and there was an audio that went along with this. Now, as I listened to all these experiences,
what do you mean an audio that went along with it?
There was an audio. I was told that I couldn't move, that I had no will, and there was almost it occurred. How I interpreted it at this particular point, it was malevolent, but.
Did that bring out the fighting spirit in you?
Everything brings out the fighting spirit.
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
Well, perhaps. I don't know what's good and what's wrong. Bad. That's another thing. Is like
you don't want to be an angry person, but you want to be effective.
Well, I was effective. I got myself out of it.
Yeah.
But it's not that it hasn't revisited me again. And sometimes I wonder if. Like I watched the recent election, depending on how you look at that.
Election.
And I watched Obama, if you will, and he's a man who has said absolutely nothing other than change and hope. But one of the big things that I've become aware of that's going on is a major psychological operation that's going on, and major mind control and major propaganda. And one of the things that this man stands for is a blank slate. You can project what you think change is on him, so that there's all of this conjuring up of things are going to change. Well, they're not changing, and we can see that. We can see that by cabinet appointments. We can see that by his silence about Palestine. We can see that by his assault on Russia, which was inaccurate. But anyway, so that's kind of like what's occurring to me as I sit here. Like, what kind of screen was I, up against with this entity?
That was trying to mind
control you? Was that me that did that? So I don't know how to distinguish whether it was a malevolent thing or was it my energy that brought it out.
But was it a part of you that was malevolent or suspicious?
Yeah, I stood outside of my body and looked at myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've stood outside. I've seen like a string, if I will, and gone floating and flying.
Silver cord.
Sean, what interests me about her experiences is she's talking about these dramatic experiences, and then she's making some political commentary, which, when I started my show on politics and spirituality, at first my weekly show was on just spirituality, because that's what I'd done for decades. It was like as soon as I entered politics based on this DVD I saw on 9/11, it was like I was crossing over some kind of boundary that there were a lot of warning shots going off. I almost felt physically sick. And yet I knew that it was the next step, at least in my soul progression, for manifestation. And I think what you said there was very interesting, because I think a lot of people want change and they want hope. They don't want to be told that they're part of a psychological operation that's just indulging them. And I'm particularly seeing the experiences here really nodding. So that to me would be a very practical benefit of an actual experience that then you can use as tools to start really making the change and the hope in society, providing we get over the FU attitude, which now I'm thinking is...
part of it. You need that. It's part of it.
It's part of it, yeah.
You got to have that.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say, otherwise you'll accept them as gods.
Right.
Otherwise, you're here to save me. I don't have to do anything.
Right.
You'll fix it all. No.
It's like, you, I'll take care of myself, buddy.
That's right. Thank you very much. But, there's enough. There's a point where you've got to stop and let me go on from there.
Okay.
But there's another point that nobody's pointed out. Paranormal activity of another sort always occur around these entities. Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
You get poltergeist phenomena after having contact with these things. Stuff will move around your house.
That's why you think Sean has had more experiences than he realizes.
Yes, and I think she's had it too. The one thing, especially the thing that about that gets on you that you can't move, I call it a knot. You can throw those off. The things that's happening in your brother's house, same thing. You most definitely are having contact with aliens or extra dimensionals or the whole list above. But because your psychic energy raises, there's things that feed off of that. They're not monsters. It's just a natural thing. You know, like we eat chickens, but we're not monsters because we eat chickens. Well, there's some things that thrive off of the psychic energy that we're not using. And when you have experiences with these things, it's like a door opens up in you. And you become a great big beacon of light, and all they see is food. And so they'll come there, and they'll come in the form of, because after my real abduction, they came in, these other things came in the form of them. Of course, it scared the hell out of me, and I couldn't fight it.
You know, Posey, this is so interesting. You say they're living off of psychic energy that we're not using.
Things.
I'm going to propose something to you. Do you think that spiritual practice that's been considered in all civilizations throughout the ages can be a matter of understanding the psychic energy that we're not using, so we can use it before somebody.
Yes, we used to use. That's what I'm saying.
Before
we
somebody
used to
else
summon
does.
These things.
Yeah,
that's what familiar is.
So it's like use it or lose it. If we're not using it, it's almost like it's fair game. If we don't even, so we have to wake up and understand what our power is, reclaim it, and take it back.
Paula, the Catholic Church has, through the rite of exorcism, has recognized the interdimensional. Yes. I mean, and this is technology that was transferred from Babylon to the Catholic Church millennia ago, and the cornerstone of all exorcism, the way I read it, is the idea that when you get in a relaxed state, some people are psychic and can astral travel. And in the ether, you have parasitical entities that can cling on to your essence and then enter your body that way. Okay? And the rite of exorcism is to, whether you use a cross or holy water, the cross and holy water per se isn't the power. The power is your subconscious belief in this object, which separates this adhering entity from your subconscious. You personally reject it through your faith in the cross.
Now, Sean, this is very interesting, but would you call that UFOlogy?
Yes.
Exorcism?
Yes.
There's
Trevor James Constable, Critters.
No,
the
I don't
problem
know.
is that we live in a very Cartesian world that everything is separated.
I see.
In reality, everything could be interconnected, which I believe Posey's right here.
Right.
That it makes sense to me that you get poltergeist activity after contact. But we in science, they like to separate everything.
So in other
Even
words,
in parascience, they like to separate everything.
So in other words, something in our consciousness has opened up, and then that allows...
And I think the experiences could be different. Like, for instance, Lisa's experience could be very different from one of the team members that our guy was in charge of. There were 6 people. She was a female. And one of the reasons why she was chosen is she was abducted by a Gray in her apartment outside of the military, actually within an apartment facility within a military facility. And she actually fought the particular ET, and I think she threw urine at it.
Oh, that's...
And they hate it.
Innovative.
Now, what's interesting about that is
they hate urine?
They despise it.
Now, that is so amazing.
Now, it's interesting that when you look at David Icke's interview with Corrado Matwa, he was abducted in South Africa. Now, by a group they call the Puana. The Puana are the Greys. The Chitahuri are the Reptilians. The Greys, he was abducted, he was on the table, he freaked out and he pissed on them. And they went flying. So you find these little common experiences. But what's interesting is that Lisa's experience may be different from this particular other woman's experience because they have a different reaction.
So being pissed off is useful.
Interesting that salt, which piss is salty, is used in exorcism.
Oh, really? Wow.
You know, when we dream, a part of us goes out because we're sleeping.
Hold it away.
Because we're sleeping. either the etheric or astral body is used. So a part of us is used in a dream. Definitely. And I dreamed that I was taken into a spaceship and shown around. A friend of mine also was in the audience in that spaceship. She was in that dream. And shown around by the captain of that particular ship. He showed us the screens and the buttons and the whole board that they had, and also explained about the rotating central area that rotates within the ship. And after I was shown that in the dream, the astral or etheric body, whatever, I asked, but are you really real? He said, is there any doubt about it by now? Yeah.
Now, there were some more experiences. Okay. But I want, before we end in 10 minutes, to hear from everyone who's had experiences.
In 2006, I had an interdimensional experience. I'm standing in, I won't tell you all of it because I won't get to the point. I was standing in front of my bed, ready to get into the bed, and I was outside in front of my house. There was a haze going around me. And I looked up, and I saw that the whole half of the block was covered with a ship. There was these concentric circles around. The next thing I know, I'm on the ship, and there's nobody there. Nobody whatsoever there. So I'm in this corridor, and I see a ramp. And on both sides of the ramp, there was a gold globe, and it came down to glass like a pyramid, a wide pyramid. So I said, okay, this ramp is too far back in the ship for it to be an exit, which I wanted. But so I'm going to go downstairs. I'm moving down the ramp. I'm moving down the ramp, right back in front of my bed again. I was a nervous wreck.
You were a nervous wreck?
Nervous wreck. I was a nervous wreck. I called, guess who?
911.
Posey. The next day, because I was in and out of sleep. I couldn't sleep.
Each one.
And I'm crying on the phone. I told him I was abducted. So he says, why don't you look at it as being a dream? I said, well, I can't do that because it was too physical. So he said, get some sleep. Okay. I went out. This was around Christmas, too. I went out, I think it was Christmas Day, and the people in the street were like alien to me. I said, who are these people? You know? And after that, I wanted to tell you that a week later, 2 tall, white, liquid beings appeared in my room. And they said, we were on the ship. And then they gave me a little message, and the message was, you are here to experience and manifest joy. Now, there's more to that statement that meets the eye. What they're saying is, whatever gives you joy, thank the universe for it, because it increases your frequency, and therefore it helps the universe.
That's beautiful. Whatever gives you joy, increases your frequency and helps the universe.
So, whatever gives you joy, thank the universe for it.
Right. Thank the universe for it. Mm-hmm. Do we have any other experiencers? Don't be. You talk. We've got another tape too, so this is very important.
No, basically, I'm going to say that I feel a little guilty because I've experienced them all my life, and I don't feel I have been abducted. I have been invited by them, and I've dealt with them. They have helped me. I call them. Forgive me.
It's real.
They program me.
It's what?
It's real.
They program me. Anytime I talk about it, that I should cry.
Because it's so beautiful.
Well, it's not that. It's just that I've known them since I can remember.
And you've lived kind of isolated because you're in a society that's not generally accepting?
No, not really, because I thought it was normal. And I couldn't understand why other people did not take it as normal.
Right.
But I experienced them since I was a child, and took recently. So It's unbelievable.
But the big emotion that you have, it means the heart's opening, right?
No, it's because they program me. They don't want me to talk about it.
Oh, they program you?
Yes.
But what do you feel when that starts to happen?
When I see them?
No, when you start to cry.
Well, it's emotional because they program me this way.
It's when they flood you.
What's that?
You programmed him every time he talks about it, and he cries.
Do you want to?
No, it's not a matter of punishment. It's just that they don't want me to communicate with anybody else.
Okay, let's put it this way: Are you satisfied with that? Do you not want to communicate?
Well, see, I don't know.
But why do you feel guilty? I mean,
No,
don't
it's
feel
not a matter
guilty.
of guilt. It's a matter of programming.
But why did you say guilty?
Did you inquire why they don't want you to communicate?
They never wanted me, and I don't know
You
why.
think they would tell you?
I don't know why. They
You
never
don't think they
explained
would
that
say,
to me.
Posey?
That's for him to learn on his own.
That's for you to learn on your own. Okay. Okay.
Once he breaks through, you'll understand, but it'll break through. It'll break through, comes to break.
But hey, welcome here. It's nice to see you. I mean, I feel by being in this group a quickening, a camaraderie, an understanding, an opportunity to go deeper because, it's a congenial atmosphere.
Any real adult here, and I'm not saying it to be like you're special, no. But any person that has really had this phenomenon understands. I understand what you're going through. Because they have a way of blocking you from going. If you try and go too far, they'll stop you, or you'll just sound like to the people that you're battling, because you'll be trying to tell them so much at one time, and the people will just say, "This guy's crazy," and it builds up inside you, and that's like I can't say if they did it to you, or if this is a part of you saying, "Wait, you can't go beyond this point because you're not ready to handle this yet."
Posey, does this group help you? And groups like this?
All of this helps me. All of this.
Okay,
See, that's why
so you seek out.
I wouldn't be here otherwise. I don't waste my time with things that are not real.
Right, so disclosure is valuable.
Yes.
Disclosure Network New
Yes.
York is valuable.
It's a graduation from the space group, from Howard Eglin's space group.
Hang on just a second.
It's like a graduation from Howard Eglin's space group. Like Mario's been in it, Naomi's been in it.
I got you
Maya.
I don't know what any of those are. Can you explain? Huh?
Other people that
Other.
are not here today.
Yeah,
I
no,
see.
not here.
I see. I bet they'll be here next time, huh?
Well, let's hope so.
Anybody else? Or Sean, do you want to comment?
This guy over here keeps raising his hand.
I'm just moving my hand.
I'm just something to say, man. Come on.
Demetria, do you have anything to say?
We'd like to hear you.
Come on.
I just want to share. I mean, I've never been abducted, but I do want to share just one instance in my life where something different happened, and that was I was in Zurich, and I was across from the river in St. Stephen's Church. I was kind of heading towards my hotel, kind of thing, and there weren't very many people around, and then instantly, I was in another part of town on a corner with taxis and buses and people coming in and out of stores, and I had absolutely no phantom of how I got there.
Wow.
Yeah. That's where, what's his name, Charles
Donnegan, Von Donnegan? Yeah. See, I now that you mention it, my twin brother.
Now that you mention it, this
My
is the kind of
twin
a now
brother
that you mention it.
had woken up in the middle of the night and saw these two little gray heads just like popping up at the foot of his bed. So my twin brother has actually had more interaction with these things than I don't remember any of it. Maybe I'm like that's why like one of these people where I just don't.
I think it's coming out, Sean. I think we're going to.
The only thing I will say, I had a dream one time where I went in my brother's attic and went after these things like a pit bull.
Uh-huh. Really?
Yeah, I have a very hostile. I'm like Kathy. Like, if I don't invite you in my house, then I'm going to go after you. So that's just my makeup.
Right.
I'd like to comment comment. I think the information we've just listened to everyone in the room is actually cumulative. I believe that a lot of it has to do with the learning process. That's my personal opinion. I think that that there's a strange dichotomy that occurs. It's like something that's occurring that shouldn't be occurring, but it is. So it's almost like you have one foot is in this particular reality, and one is in what they want us to believe is reality, which is a virtual reality. I believe the virtual reality is created as a matrix. The matrix is conducted by those who control the people, powers that be, or whatever. And that's what I was alluding to earlier when I said the predatorial race, the elitists, what have you. I believe that the woman is absolutely on the money. I don't want to get into politics. I'll be here all day, and I don't want to bore you. But I believe 150% what she said, and I think that we're all being social engineered. And I believe that the people in this room who are going through this, we don't have an access to anything, because if you go out there and you try to explain this to somebody, all of a sudden, you're just comic relief to people. And I don't believe anyone in here is of that nature. That's all I have to say.
Dory, you said anything?
We're out of tape.
We're out. The bell saved you?
Guys, as long as we have a minute, just to let you know, the Super Bowl Sunday is the first Sunday of February. So we're going to have our meeting the second Sunday of February. Okay, we got it.
We got to stay
Do
here.
your football game first Sunday of February. We'll be here the second Sunday.
446. Tonight, on the History Channel, there is a documentary on 2012.
On what?
2012. The movie is
It just started?
Because there's a movie coming out in 2012.
Yeah.
And then,
Did anyone see the
It is now recording. Go ahead.
I had no idea that the time went racing on and we only have 10 minutes left. So I just wanted to kind of draw things to a conclusion and thank Nick Kurtza so much for Disclosure Network. It's what is it, Nick?
DNNY.org.
DNNY.org. And DNNY.org is something you should all be checking out on a regular basis. And I think that the kind of information that's coming out now, when I post it on the internet, I think a lot of people that maybe never even knew that such a group existed will become members of this. And as a result of more of us coming together and sharing in transparency, we can have what I was so excited about giving the talk about, which is nonviolent communication on planet. Let's develop the potential that we have on this planet and off the planet. Let's allow ourselves to imagine that we can connect with extraordinary realities, because we are that extraordinary within us.
I made one observation during this Christmas season, because I work at a very, very Christmas-intensive place. I don't want to mention it. But the average person during, the people that came into my restaurant, they were nice this year.
Really?
Like, the economy went belly up, and people kind of like, all that anxiety about, buying this. Well, people didn't have money to buy it, so they were happy. And, maybe, this is the transformation they're talking about, is that as we move away, the material will be challenged, materialism will be challenged, and at the end of the day, what you have to fall back on is yourself and the relationship with the people you love. So I'm hoping that that's going to be in the mix of the transformation, is that people realize that, buying a gazillion things during, from November 28th to December 24th is the most important thing. I hope they move away from that and realize, it's about sitting around the kitchen, the dining room table, and, experiencing, because, when you lose someone, these are the things that you think about. You don't remember the things you bought.
A breakdown of materialism.
Or at least a different perception of how important materialism is. We all like good things. We all want to provide and buy, children, gifts, and things like that. But at least a different changing of perception.
Exploring a greater human potential.
Sure.
Do you have some concluding
I
comments?
just want to say perhaps the materialism that we're experiencing, the consumerism we're experiencing right now is part of that, the way that we've been engineered to take us away from who we are as humans with that greater potential of awareness. We have extraordinary powers of observation. We have extraordinary powers to experience things that are outside of, say, the three-dimensional world. And I think that there are major forces, like just look up in the sky, the chemtrails. The chemtrails, it's called Operation SHIELD. Right? It's encircling the Earth. HAARP, High Aerial Auroral Research Project. Your cell phone. Your genetically modified foods. Anybody who's not eating organic, their DNA is, as we speak, being changed, so that it closes down the perception of awareness. So I guess the bottom line for me, to end up in some kind of a positive note, is that perhaps this whole experience that we've just had is expanding awareness and learning about all of the things that are trying to close it down, and sharing that. And I think that's the thing that will ultimately win.
Becoming greater than the challenges. Anyone else? Some concluding? Yes.
I just wanted to comment on this gentleman saying about the exposure to the UFO phenomenon. They already had that at the United Nations. It was run by Coleman von Kavinsky. I'm sure you're aware of. He had the UFO desk. Yeah, well, he was shut down. I had a friend that worked with him for 10 years, and I was privy to a lot of information that came from that study, and he was on the money. He was a real deal, and all that material was usurped by someone that bought it all up from the wife. She had no use for it, so there was an attempt, and it was shut down.
Fortunately, the UN thing is not the UN. They've chosen the venue of the UN as cover to allow a certain element within the military to meet together to facilitate this transformation towards universal, unambiguous contact. What they don't want, what they're scared of, is contact without the preparation. They really want, there's an element, especially in the area of the Navy, they really want it because there are a lot of people in the Navy that are connected to very sensitive, and they're sensitive projects. I'm trying to couch my words here.
And they won't be as sensitive as people are ready for.
They'll have more freedom.
They'll have more
there's
freedom.
a great onus, and it's a terrible life to be in the black world.
Right.
You got to constantly watch what you say, who you meet. You got to. It's just a terrible. It's not a nice life at all. And there are a lot of people in that area that would like to get out of it.
So all of the experiencers are helping that.
Absolutely. Everyone here that tells their story and prepares society. You're introducing ideas and experiences to society where when something foreign comes in like this, they'll say, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that. I remember this experience and that. And their subconscious isn't shocked as much as it would if they'll have some understanding. Nietzsche, when he wrote Thus Spake Zarathustra, said that this won't be understood for years to come because what I'm doing is so far ahead of conventional thought, it's going to take people time to understand it. This is what members of my sources team want to prevent. They want people to have an association in place where there is understanding when it happens and there isn't that subconscious fright.
And yet it's also as close as our own feelings.
Sure.
As the technology to be prepared. Like no matter chemtrails and all of the negative stuff, as long as we stay connected to our feelings and are aware of our needs, we can articulate the request and not be confused to not know what to ask for.
Paulette,
even though I know you say it's all predestined and we don't have any chance, but you've also said, like to the fellow in the back, that it's something we have to break through. So that's very exciting to me.
Paulette, there is an excellent source of information called Coast to Coast on WABC AM 1 to 5 in the morning. And there are some marvelous guests that are being interviewed that have a great deal of information on UFOs and extraterrestrial civilizations. And I urge any of those people here in this room who are up or cannot sleep to put that on. Coast to Coast is a wonderful source of tremendous information. Thank you.
Thank you. And Josie?
One thing. Don't ignore dreams.
That's right.
Because sometimes they don't just take your body. Sometimes they just come in and take your spirit or take your soul. Because see, there are those that abduct those also. And most abductees know that sometimes they don't need the body. There's some that are dealing with the body. There's another group that deals with your spirit.
So you say exercise more free will in your dreams too.
It's not just exercise, because when they take you in your dreams, you have no choice about that either.
Uh-huh.
You know, but it's the thing is that I'm just saying don't sleep on the fact that somebody said it was a dream. Remember, for the first 56 years, I thought all of this was a dream until finally I had tangible evidence, proof that it wasn't.
No, I only meant things like I appreciate Coast to Coast and so on, but I think people need to trust more their own feelings and experiences and not have to defer. Even the ones that have been isolated out to say we're the experiencers and you're not. You don't want to be the one in some privileged category. It's just to stimulate, to say, hey, look, you're not going to bamboozle me. I know this is real. And be wary before you ask for this. But at the same time, I feel some excitement after being with you for a couple hours. I'm wanting to go home and have greater realities. And I'm definitely looking forward to next month.
But if you wake up with a 6-foot cockroach standing in your room, how would you feel?
Well, according to Pat, according,
I'm not going to hurt you.
it just depends who you're listening to. According to Pamela, it was a great experience. No, yes?
Since we're on the dream state phase, I believe that dreams are also used as assessments. And a lot of what I went through was in a dream state where they actually put you through assessments and they want to see how you react. The concept of rescue is predominant. You talked about pain. I'm a hunter. So I was going hunting one day. I took a nap, and during the nap, they told me what hunting was about. And I didn't go hunting for a long time after that because they hunted me down. And then I got the perspective of the deer. And I understood what it was like. And I was hanging upside down, and I was cut from my back right to my bones. And then they'd release me, chase me again, and I'd say, oh, no, not again, until I got it. So I think dream states are extremely important. They're very integral, actually.
Well, thank you, everybody. A new group is going to come in, and I just want to say to you, Happy New Year, and may you have contact with yourself.